There are three things I'm going to be stressing today because I think they're so important. Number one, I'm going to say to you that you are what you are and where you are because of what's gone into your mind. And that you can change what you are. You can change where you are by changing what goes into your mind. The second thing I'm going to stress so hard is that life is tough. You see, I don't care what you do, whether you're a student or whether you're the newest distributor, whether you're a gold direct, a diamond, a pearl, or whether you're a crown, life is tough. But I'm also going to stress the fact that when you are tough on yourself, that life is going to be infinitely easier on you. Now, life is tremendously exciting. It's enormously rewarding. But first of all, it is demanding. You see, you got to be before you can do, and you got to do before you can have. The third thing I'm going to stress to you this morning is basically the fact that you can have everything in life that you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. That phrase has never been more meaningful. It has never been truer than it is today in the Amway business. Because you absolutely must build the other individual before you are going to reap the rewards yourself. And I'll be talking today about money, incidentally. Now, I get so amused at people who say that they're not really interested in money. I believe a man or a woman who'd say that would lie about other things too. I've had it and I haven't had it, and overall it is better to have it. Now, I'm not implying that it's everything, because there's stocks and bonds and real estate. There are a lot of other things other than money. But folks, I'm going to be talking today not just about standard of living, but about quality of life. The reality is, if you'll take care of the quality of life, the standard of living is going to go up. About 8 years ago, I was down in San Antonio, and I wanted this, hopefully, to put this in perspective. You know, I've got to kind of apologize as I get started. I just feel so good, I'm almost dangerous. And for that reason, I try to share and communicate that with you. But about 8 years ago, I was down in San Antonio. During one of the breaks at the rather lengthy seminar, a lady came up to me. She had a question she wanted to ask, but she didn't want to look me in the eye. So she looked down at the floor and she said, Mr. Ziegler, you kind of make a nice little old fee for them little old speeches you make, don't you? Then she looked up, grinning so wide she could have eaten a banana sideways. I mean, she was really grinning. I said, now, ma'am, I don't know where you heard that. Don't know where you got that information. But I want you to know there's not a word of truth in it. And I want to put a stop to that vicious rumor right now. I don't want it to get out of this auditorium. The reality is, ma'am, I make a great big old fee for them little old speeches I made. But what I did not tell her was the fact that on many occasions I've gotten up early enough in the morning to go down and speak to the men who drive the bread trucks that deliver the cakes and the pies to the restaurants and grocery stores many hours before you even turned over. I didn't tell them the number of times I've driven 50 miles, 100 miles, and on 3 occasions 200 miles at night, one way, my expense, to speak to a group of 12 people and then have to drive back home that night because I did not have enough money to pay a motel bill. I didn't tell her the number of times that I've spoken to the Lions and the JCs and the Rotaries and the Women's Garden Club. I didn't tell her the number of times I've gone into the vacuum cleaner and cookware and real estate and life insurance companies. The number of times I've gone into jails and prisons and drug rehab centers and any other place where I would have a chance to practice and hone my skills. I didn't tell her about all of those things, but I did those things. And I did them because I honestly thought I had something to say. I did them because I knew that if I was ever going to be paid for saying what I had to say, that not only did I have to have something to say, but I had to know how to say it in a way which would be acceptable to the people who were listening. And I did those things because, as my friend Steve Brown from Atlanta, Georgia says, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. until you can learn to do them well. The first time you drew those circles, the odds are about 78,000 to 1 that you did a pretty lousy job of it. The odds are about 70,000 to 1 that the second time you weren't exactly professional. You had seen your sponsor, you had seen your direct, you had seen your diamond rod, and it looked so easy. But when you stood up that first time, your mind took a seat. But you knew that if it is worth doing, you had to do it over and over again until the day came when you could do them professionally and the results started taking place. And isn't it marvelous that we have to go through a learning process? You see, if we could take 3 lessons from the pro and be good enough on the golf course to take the tour, the PGA Tour, then everybody would be tour players and there'd be no compensation in it or satisfaction either. If we could all take a weekend course at the university and become a physician, we'd all be physicians, and then there'd be nothing in it for anybody. No, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly until we can learn to do it well. The key, ladies and gentlemen, is to stay with it. So many people quit with the end in sight. They dream the dream, and then somebody undermines it, and they forget what their objectives really were. I want to stress something extraordinarily important. I believe it is extremely important. Dr. Tony Campola of Eastern College in Pennsylvania makes a statement that as important as your past is, and folks, it is important. Your past has brought you to right where you are. But he says, as important as your past is, it is not nearly as important as the way you see your future. Do you hear what he's saying? He's saying, and not denying the importance of the past, but he's saying that if you were abused as a child, if you were brought up in a home which had very little of the material goods and even fewer of the really important goods, the love and affection and care and consideration, if you grew up and were abused, if you grew up and had all kinds of problems, he says those things are important, but he said they're not nearly as important as the way you see your future. Boy, that's exciting. How do we see our future? Listen to what Dr. John Maxwell from down in San Diego, California says. And if we'll latch on this one and tie it to what Dr. Tony Campola says, we will build that dream, we will build our business, and we will have that quality of life which is so important.